Good evening and welcome to Art Pickles' live session. Today's session has taken some time for us to come up with because we thought that we have to come out with a topic of value. And that is what today we have come up with. Today's topic is aesthetics of Dalit literature, issues, text, and context. In conversation with Dr. Jaydeep Sarangi, who is a writer, poet, critic, wears many hats. I'll be introducing him in a more explanatory way in some time. But before that, let me give you a perspective of the same. To brief you, what is Dalit literature? Dalit literature is the Dalit consciousness for human equality, for human identity, and this is the main part, human dignity. As we all are born as humans, we all can claim for human dignity. But years of oppression and years of atrocities has compelled and denied this right to a particular segment of the society and call them untouchables. Today, we are going to discuss about the historical perspective, the nitty-gritties, and how Dalit movement in India came across and what is the modern Dalit literature in India. Before that, we are so fortunate to collaborate with Maniben Nanavati Women's College, Mumbai. It's an amazing college affiliated to SNDT Women's University, is accredited with receiving the Best College Award in 2018-19. Apart from being a pioneering college in women's education, it prides itself in giving the best to its students, turning them into leaders for the future. And to talk about the college perspective, we have Dr. Rashi Trivedi with us, the principal of the college and the head of Department of English. She has received awards for being the principal par excellence for commitment and enthusiasm towards the institution by International Institute of Hotel Management, Pune. She is the chief editor. She is the associate editor, reviewer on the editorial board of many journals and has many publications and research papers on her name. Also, an exponent of semi-classical music. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome. And I would invite you to share your views and your perspective for the college.
Surely, Anushri. Am I audible? Clearly audible
Yes,
and visible?
Yes.
Thank you and good evening to everyone present here. To the dear friend Jaydeep and Anushri, with whom I have recently been acquainted. Yes, the college has a very powerful vision. It goes like this on Sanskrit saying, Savidya ya vimuktaye. Knowledge is that which liberates. It goes hand in glove with our mission statement, which is empowerment of women through access to higher education. The college, established in 1972, will be entering into its 50th glorious year next year. And we are proud to say that Maniben Nanavati, who has been our role model, was a staunch Gandhian. She took part in freedom movement. She was a humanitarian, a philanthropist, a woman who really respected every woman on this earth and left no stone to see that the women around her or women around her are empowered in one or the other way. The college is aware of its industry academia interaction, its role of making citizens who are going to be globally responsible. Values and ethics are at the core of the institution's heart, and we live by it. When it came to uh, searching for a role model who's an empowered woman, we didn't have to go out of our college. It was right there in our role model, Maniba. The family of the institution committee, managing committee also follows on the same path. And as the college which caters to the modern needs of the employment market, we have a well-established research center, UGC's NSQF skill development programs, UGC's Swayam NAPTEL skill development program. We have an incubation center. We have a Gandhian Studies Center sponsored by UGC, and the college offers a wide range of graduate and postgraduate courses to keep pace with the needs of the job industry. So, this is the vision of the college to prepare global citizens with global responsibility and financial independence, the vision which makes a woman more empowered. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. And I must say that your students are fortunate to have you as the principal, because it's not only about turning them in, putting them into the workforce, but turning them into thought leaders. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Jai Hind. And now is the time to get on with the conversation about Dalit literature. And today we are fortunate to have Dr. Jaydeep Sarangi with us, who is a bilingual writer, a poet, a critic, editor, translator who has translated a number of significant publications on Australian literature, Indian writing in English, post colonial studies, and Dalit literary movement in India. At present, he is the principal of New Alipur College. His books, research articles, translations, and poems are in literary archives in different universities in the world. Thank you, Dr. Sarangi, for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on our platform to enlighten us
Thank
and
you.
give us different perspective about the subject. To begin with,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's an honor. I'm honored. Yes.
it's our pleasure, sir. To
Yeah.
begin with, let's just start with the very beginning. How, for the layman, how would you define the literature? A. And when I read the term in whatever knowledge I have, limited knowledge, and I listen to the term Dalit literature, one image pops up in my mind, and that is Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. So, would you say the modern literary Dalit writings find its roots in the Ambedkarite thoughts? So, two questions for you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. It's an honor to talk on the issue that I've been
Pleasure.
working and for some time, and it's my engagement with and friendship with a lot of Dalit activists and writers from different parts of India, like Sharan Kumar Limbale, Arjun Dangle, Bama, to Kalyani Thakur Charal, Manohar Maule Vishwas, to Odisha Dalit writers. I am really fortunate that I have made friendship with them. I have lived some kind of life with them, so that I can experience some sort of the thoughts and some sort of ideas that they have gone through. And I'm really fortunate in this birth. I feel like that. Now, the
Yes.
term Dalit is very highly loaded term because it will take at least 6 hours to define it chronologically. But I will make it very pinpoint. If we look into the term in the category, in the ideas of Arjun Dangle, I think the editor of Poison Bread, the most important book which revolutionized the marginal studies or post-colonial studies in India. And this book is historical and monumental, published in 1992. And in an interview with Arjun Dangle, myself, and I asked Dangle, how will you define the term Dalit in the present context? Dangle says, this interview is archived online. You can Google my name and Arjun Dangle's name and interview, it will come. Earlier, Dalits were only ones who were outcasts and had dwelling outside the native. However, we have tried to make it more pervasive and inclusive. We define and conceive Dalits as those who are depressed and unorganized socially, politically, economically, and culturally. This is not a mere caste, but a realization, a feeling, the feeling of oppressed and deprived by a system. Nothing has changed so far to change the meaning and scope of the word. But the very important thing about this is, if we look into last 70 years, the Dalit movement what centered around Ambedkar, if we think of in 50s, but it came in earlier 30 years from 1920s onwards. You can think of Ambedkar's Gandhi Ambedkar debate and Ambedkar's contribution to this field, enormous contribution to this field, and Dalits were all inclusive. And if you look into in 50s and 60s, lot of Dalit activists were oriented towards under the spell of the Marxist thoughts. So more liberal, those who are underprivileged, yeah, they were taken into they are taken into consideration. And into 70s, when Dalit Panther movement took place, and new sort of definitions that took also new orientations, who are Dalit means who are depressed, and
Okay.
Dalan, who are the victims of Dalan. Dalan means a machine, a social machine has crushed them, crushed. You can say crushed and broken, the word broken. And if we look into the modern categorical term, it's about social SC and OBC and people who have the caste identity as their own. But it was, if you can define historically, the definitions could include women also in some point of time, and also the laborers who were economically marginalized. So
Right.
it's a very loaded term. And
Right.
regarding Ambedkar, the second part of the question that I'm talking about, Ambedkar was a great philosopher, and he was also an educational pragmatist, I'll say, educational pragmatist. And Ambedkar was the fruit of Mahatma Phule's garden, I'll say. Mahatma Phule, 1827 to 1890, made an enormous impact on Indian society, anti-caste movements, and also his role in educating women for schools. And he established a school in Pune in 1848, and which were, I think, monumental in many ways. But if we look into the Indian tradition of Dalit studies, of course, Ambedkar is the Gangotri of that movement because of his slogan we all know: educate, agitate, and
Okay.
organize. First, you give them
Okay.
education, then
Hmm.
give them their voice and organize them. Unless you organize a movement, it's very hard to come the result that you look forward to. Therefore, and Ambedkar's Annihilation of Caste is almost the Bible for Dalit studies. Annihilation
Okay.
of Caste, where he talks about the details about Indian stratified society. For me, in this evening, if we want to know India, we should read Gandhi, we should read Nehru, we should read Tagore, and we should also read Ambedkar. And without reading Ambedkar, reading of India is incomplete. And of course, Dalit movement in different parts of India is, of course, the Gangotri is, of course, Ambedkar himself. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. So, okay, so this was the root of the modern Dalit literature, and Dalit, as you said,
Yes.
oppressed. Dalit Hindi
Mm,
mein is oppressed, in fact.
mm,
Okay, moving forward, at that time, do you think can we draw parallels from the black writing that was in the West? Because that was the target of the racism that was happening there, and here also we were facing casteism. So, were any elements that we have drawn from there, like the Indian feminist literature that has drawn some inspiration from the West? Because
yes.
of the first
Yes.
wave, second wave, third wave of feminism. Are there
Mm.
any parallels between the Indian Dalit literature and the black writing abroad?
Of course, both are cultural movements, racial movements. Black writings means, of course, the color of the skin. By birth, you are segregating people, and similarly in India, by birth caste, you are segregating people. So, but two are unique in different parts of the world. If we talk of in Indian context, Dalit movement is unique in a way that unless you are born in Indian caste system, it's terrible. You cannot think of it. So someone is born in a different continent, in a different environment, social structure, social hierarchy. It's of course impossible to understand, experience. this caste hierarchy or caste
Hmm.
pyramid. So, of
Hmm.
course, the Dalit movement in India was influenced by the Afro-American movement. We know
Right.
a lot of Dalit readers who
Hmm.
went to the West, and like Dr. Wankare, and he went there and came back as principal and in
Hmm.
Aurangabad, and brought philosophy of the movement
Okay.
that he had
Okay.
seen. So very
Hmm.
important parallelism can be done. But Dalit movement in India is unique to Indian sociology.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Okay. Moving forward, whatever you have explained us till now, do you think Dalit literature has brought some kind of socio-political change in the system till now? Because as a movement, has it been successful to some extent?
Of course, now things are changing because no one can deny the sun rising. Of course, I have taken
Hmm.
from Professor Dangle's, John Dangle's work, that is,
Hmm.
no one can deny the sun rising. And
Hmm.
with education and, of course, cultural awareness and one
Hmm.
or two generations of
Hmm.
more than that, higher education, people are
Hmm.
of the background of different order, they're coming with a voice. You cannot resist the voice for long. Okay. And now things are changing over the last 20 years or so. I think a lot of people are coming forward. They're organizing, and they are coming as a second generation or third generation people who can really fluently write, express their
Hmm.
thoughts. They're
Hmm.
confident. I will
Hmm.
say they are confident in
Hmm.
writing and of course their expression. Therefore, their ways of expressions are more prominent and voiced.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if you look into Dalit movement now, it's a pan-Indian affair, pan-Indian affair.
Hmm.
But in 1970s, it was in pockets. But now it
Hmm.
is covering Kerala, in West Bengal, in
Hmm.
Odisha, in Uttar Pradesh,
Hmm.
so everywhere, and they can come out and they can produce the same qualitatively rich literature, the literature of so-called Brahminical, as I don't
Hmm.
subscribe the term Brahminical at all. All
Hmm.
literature are literature. All
Right.
literatures are the same. Yeah,
Right.
of course.
Right.
Of course. But translations, I think translation is the heart of India. So if you want to know India, India through translation.
Hmm.
So when doors are opened up, a lot of regional vernacular Dalit literatures have been translated into powerful language, English, French, and Spanish, and reaching out to the world. That's
Hmm.
the phenomenal growth of the marginal literature, I'll say. I celebrate this.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. It's a celebration of literature and nothing else. Great.
Absolutely. And this literature is humanistic literature.
Yes.
I
Yes.
subscribe the term humanistic literature, and we
That's a
endorse
beautiful
it.
term. Yes.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
okay. Okay. We were talking about Dalit literature and feminist movement. So, combining both of these, do you think that the Dalit woman who is born as a woman in a Dalit community, she is facing gender inequality and she is facing outside the house, she is facing caste discrimination. So, is she doubly oppressed in some way?
Yes, this is very important. If you look into my recent articles and my interviews with Bama, I have taken two interviews in a gap of, I think, 10, 12 years. And my interviews with Kalyani Thakucharal, all are archived online. So
Okay.
both are feminist, Dalit feminists, but they want to call themselves not as Dalit feminists, they want to call themselves as Dalit womanists. By the term womanism, I think is a more inclusive term because feminism could not, I think, reach out to the, I will say, to the grassroots level of people because, the laborers or the unorganized sectors,
Right.
feminism,
Hmm.
little middle class, upper middle
Hmm.
class
Yes.
thing that is so. So
Hmm.
feminism is possibly not the term we can associate with Dalit feminism or Dalit liberal spirit of women, because,
Hmm.
as you said, they are marginalized as caste, then women. and then economical reasons, and then political reasons. So many things are there.
So many
Religion,
factors.
maybe, of course. Think of Bama, and Bama is a Christian, and of course, and also a very oppressed section of life from Tamil Nadu. And if you read my interviews with Bama, she is expressing as a Dalit womanist, and of course, she is very happy with that. And she says in our autobiography, Karukku, and Karukku is almost, I'll say, it's a compendium of philosophy of life. Life is not that you and I celebrate. Life is what the India celebrates it together.
Right.
So that is thing. Yeah.
Okay. Moving forward, uh, as you were saying, there's Dalit literature from Odisha, from the south, from UP, Bihar. How would you explain the parallels between these regions, the oppression that all the Dalits of different regions are facing? And is there anything particular, because you are located in Kolkata, you have worked on Bangla Dalit literature, is there any difference in the Bangla Dalit literature and the literature from all across the country?
Yes, sure. Because Bangla Dalit literature, there is a strong presence of refugee, the concept of refugee, because a lot of Namasudra people came from Bangladesh. They are uprooted from Bangladesh, and after part, when they entered into India, they had been thrown into different refugee camps. If you look into the Bengali Dalit literature, it is markedly different from other regions because of the element of, I'll say, displacement, dislocation from their original country, from the original land to become someone's land. Okay, so Namashudra movement originated in Bangladesh, Urakandi Gram, Guru Chand Thakur, to leading, leading people like God-like saint people, and they try to transform society. And now, after partition, they came to India. These some people, and then they thrown into different camps, and they come out with their own autobiography and camp life, and those are blood-chilling discourse. I tell you, there is a book by Manoranjan Bapari, Itibritte Chandal Jibon, the life of a Chandal. Itibritte Chandal Jibon. It will give you a shock. It will change your life, because he has come out with experiences of his own life. Possibly in writing, we will stop somewhere, but he did not stop, and he crossed all barriers. It's a naked exposure of life in the truest sense. You and I write, possibly at a certain point of time we stop, but it's like the fire with he has written this autobiography. I think it's another way to look at the Bengali concept, the concept of Bengal, and the Bengal from a refugee's perspective and refugee Dalit's perspective. So many angles are added into it. Of course, Dalit movement in India is, of course, uh, centered around first, and centered around Maharashtra, then Gujarat, of course, in other parts of India, and the perspectives are different, but main ideas are the same. Of course, the basic
Right.
construct is the same. Theoretically, this constructs are same, but in Bengal case, perspective is a bit different, of course, because of this added thing of partition or landlessness or displacement that gives another dimension to look at things. Yeah, sure.
Right, right. Okay, so before moving on to the next question, there are questions I can see coming on, and I would request
Wonderful.
whoever is watching, if you have any questions, please put down in the comment section, and after the question and answer session, we'll take out the questions from the comment section, and Dr. Sarangi will be answering them.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so moving on. Uh, there have been Dalit writers who have been writing for the movement. They have, as you were saying, that one came across what has been on him and writing out your own experiences. But there have been many non Dalit writers also writing about the oppression of the Dalit and what they have been facing. Do you think there's a possibility that they lack some kind of perspective in writing, or if you can share any examples for your views?
Yeah. Writing about Dalit life, but not a Dalit, but that may be kind of empathic literature, literature of empathy, literature. But it cannot be the same, because when you have the same experience, same kind of emotion, when you experience, your emotion is so different. Suppose I cannot write pregnancy literature. So if I write pregnancy literature, it will be my experience, third hand or second hand experience of writing that. So you can easily understand the idea of the emotion that I'm attached to it, that I'm talking about. The life you live will come out through you, but life I have seen may lack that intensity, of course. Uh, that may be sympathetic literature, that may be empathic literature, literature of empathy. But of course, Dalit literature by the Dalits are strongly different. Are strongly different.
Right. Okay, that's a beautiful perspective. So we have spoken about the literature in whole. Now let's come to your work, your books. So talking about your book, Dalit Voice, Literature and Revolt. What was your research process? What was it that you were following? Could you please share some insights about the book?
Absolutely. But this book is co-edited with one of the leading Dalit writers of India, Sharan Kumar Limbale. So myself and Limbale, we had the vision at the beginning that Dalit literature should be pan-Indian. Our concept was to take the materials on works and essays on different perspectives, from different angles, from different communities, under Dalit communities, and from different backgrounds. So first idea was holistic. The second idea was to bring certain different ideas that the researchers will take different views to take it forward. Suppose the idea of translation. The idea of autobiography, idea of memoir, idea of letters, ideas of essays by Dalit writers, ideas of poetry, how poetry should be read, how Dalit poetry should be read and looked into from the perspectives of Indian Gharana. There are critics on different, suppose in feminism, there are a lot of foreign critics we quote. But when you talk about Dalit feminists, we should quote Sharmila Rege, Uma Chakravarti, and then some others, so that people in the coming generation will have a secondary material to work on Dalit studies. So unless we produce a good number of secondary material available, it will not sail, through actual across time. Because for that we need primary sources. Primary means literary productions. At the same time, the research productions on and around those texts, so that together the growth is complete, the journey is complete. That was our vision, and I think some vision we could achieve of this book. And this book is very well reviewed in different journals and magazines in India and abroad. Yeah, sure. But
Okay.
thank you to Sharan Kumar Limbaleji for his emotional support and collaboration.
Beautiful. Okay, so moving on to your next book, you have written on the selected essays on life and works of Manohar Mauli Vishwas.
Yes.
And so on that aspect,
Yeah,
and how do you?
Manohar Mauli Vishwas has a brilliant book of essays, but not translated yet in Bangla. 100 years of Bengali Dalit literature. But this book is still to be translated into English. Okay. And Manohar Mauli Vishwas is almost like a banyan tree of Dalit literary movement in Bengal. And he is an active member and the current president. He was a secretary of Bangla Dalit Sahitya Sangstha. So he has worked enormously into the field. So I thought that one book on him, selected essays on him, will he is already an established writer. So one critical book on him will add value to his writings, so that primary source and secondary source will go hand in hand to establish and give his name a permanence in the field of Bengali writings in Bengal. Okay, so this book is, of course, again holistic, and the idea was to bring the secondary sources into the forefront of Manohar Bali Vishwas, so that Manohar Bali Vishwas' studies can grow, and in future there will be so many researchers to work on Manohar Bali Vishwas' works. That was the intention, of course.
Right. It's so important to translate the work. Otherwise, it has to reach out to
Absolutely,
people, as many people as possible. And thank you
absolutely.
so much, sir, for working on
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh, okay, we have spoken about the problems. We have spoken about years of oppression and still there, prevalent in the society. Uh, while I was reading about the literature and ways what people have done, some people have shifted to another religion in some way or the other. Do you think that choosing another religion, becoming a Buddhist, or something else is a way out, or there has to be many other ways? Like, what is the way to the solution to this problem?
I won't go into that, but no, in details in this now. But of course, that was their personal choice, of course, and possibly they thought Buddhism is, more holistic and more liberal. Possibly that's why they embraced Buddhism, and of course, Buddhang Saranam Gacchami. The Buddha gives a calming effect to the mind when the mind is disturbed. Possibly, chanting of Buddhas gives a calming effect of mind, and that is the same in all religion. And all religions are very important, and all religions are very sacred, and everybody is respected, and all choices are respected. So, but coming to this particular ideas that possibly the Dalits in different parts of India, they thought that the Indian caste system is so deep rooted. So maybe one another Buddhism could be a one way of expression and one way of embracing life in totality. So, but this is of course my reading, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, so last question from my side. How do you see the society changing? How do you envision it?
And we must change ourselves first, isn't it? Society will, no, of course, there is a progression. There should be a progression, growth always. And the progression is from darkness to light. And progression is from, illiteracy to education. Progression is from one generation of learning to
Mm,
five generations of learning. So, of course, there is always growth, and possibly the things we are discussing after 20
mm,
years we shall not discuss at all. And
mm.
still we struggle with certain things in life, and possibly
Right.
after 20 years of time we shall not think about that. And these are hurdles, and these are milestones, we'll say. And
Hmm.
today's topic will be history tomorrow, isn't it? So I'm
Beautiful.
very optimistic. I'm very optimistic about it, and I have seen the expression of joy, celebration of writings, celebration of productions, and celebration of the journeys. And now Dalit literature is visible all over the world. And I will say there is there is always a say cliche that there is no good novel from the marginal community, may it be from the Aborigine or from the Maoris and from the Dalits. But I do not subscribe to that at all. I think
Mm,
all literature are great literature. Marginal literature, if we call marginal at all, but they have contributed a lot to it. Our angles, our eyes could not read it. So,
right.
because there's a writer called Kapil Krishna Thakur in Bengali, Kapil Krishna Thakur. and he has a one novel, and which novel I will surpass all autobiographical references,
Okay.
and he talks about the social movement, and I think that is fascinating. And there is a
Mm.
criticism about the marginal writers that they only talk about themselves, therefore autobiography is
Mm.
so special for them. But
Mm.
it's not that. Their life is so different from you and me. Therefore,
Mm.
of course, the first thing will come, who am I and what is mine, me, and what made me as a writer, what made me as a social being. So I want to express that fast, and of course, they are soul makers, I'll say, and they are aesthetically satisfying, fulfilling writers. I always respect them. I have seen them, worked with them, learned with them, and of course, their subtle movements taught me many lessons from of history, time, and society. I will never forget my engagement with Dalit literature, Dalit literary movement, and Dalit activists. Activists, all are my good friends and will remain good friends forever.
Beautiful. Cheers to that thought and cheers to the celebration of literature because it exists
Yes,
in our world.
of course. But
Okay.
one thing, of course, working Dalit literature or working with marginal literature or Aboriginal literature, Australian, Maori literature, Black literature, we will have to think it is a kind of activism.
Right.
It needs your emotional involvement.
Mm.
It's not that will I will write one article and I will vanish and I will
Mm.
perish. So
Right.
it's a lifelong mission, and I know it's really you will get lot of enjoyment into it when you work close to your heart, close to your heart. Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's why humans are different because we have so many emotions that we have that are ingrained in
absolutely,
us.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And on
So,
on that note, I would like to request all of our viewers to please share this video because we need to reach out to people because spreading knowledge is the basic of everything that we want to do in life. So
absolutely.
let's
We need India in true colors, in India in true
yes,
colors, of course. And we'll celebrate each other's journey. That is, our journeys are
perfect.
unique, and that is emphatic. And we are confident nation builders. We are confident nation builders.
That's
Sure.
so true. I don't have any more words after like I have goosebumps really. Okay.
Sure.
So let's just go and see what our viewers have written. I'll just read them out.
Yeah.
Uh, okay. Uh, should Shatanuka Ghosh Roy has written engaging and informative. Dipalik Throat says hello all. Here, Ms. Chaudhary has something. Sir, can you enlighten us on Dalit studies and its relation with other theories of literature?
Absolutely. And my humble submission in this evening is that we have produced in last 30 years or 40 years of Dalit studies a comprehensive secondary material which can be accessed, easily used for researches and theorization on Dalit literature. You can say Dalit humanism, Dalit feminism, Dalit autobiography, Dalit engagements, Dalit movements, Dalit literary movements, and people are from sociological perspectives, from political perspectives, from the perspectives of literary traditions, from the perspectives of history. So many fields are contributing to Dalit studies, and we have on our baggage a significant body of literature and a significant body of critical studies on Dalit literature
Hmm.
on that. So we have a solid platform now for these Dalit studies in India, and I'm really fortunate that I can really talk. I can give you some examples like that. You can have a comparative model also. Suppose you are comparing Sharan Kumar Limbare's Akarmasi and Manohar Moli Vishwas's autobiography, Surviving in My World, Growing Up Dalit in Bengal. And you have two perspectives from two cultures, one Marathi culture, another Bengali culture. So comparative model within India, written in vernaculars, translated into English, and translated into other vernacular languages. That is
Mm.
unique. Suppose Marathi Dalit writings can be translated into Kannada, in Malayalam also, and in Bangla also, and that is the uniqueness of our culture and
Right.
tradition, and that there lies the success and the success story of a
Mm.
writer to reach out
Mm.
to the democratic platform of India, to reach out to
Yes.
the grassroots level of India. That is unique, unique.
Unique. Moving on to the next question, Assis Sarkar wants to ask, which theatrical perspective, according to you, is appreciate or maybe appropriate in engaging with Dalit literature? Which theatrical perspective?
Yeah, you can, of course, you can theorize from different aesthetics, the platform of aesthetics. You can think of towards Dalit aesthetics. No, you think of aesthetics. So another thing is, of course, post-colonial angle. Oh, I don't think that after 40, 50 years down time, the term post-colonial will ever exist. So possibly post-colonial, isn't it? And possibly we will forget our colonial history. So for forgetting, we need time. For forgetting, we need
Yes,
time.
we need time
So
to forget.
yeah, of course. Therefore, I think very important. So many feminism, Dalit feminism, then Dalit humanism from the perspective of minority discourse. Of course, emancipation, discourse of emancipation. I'll subscribe.
Mm.
Progressive discourse, and humanistic literature. There's another thing, all pervasive thing, humanistic literature. So many angles to look at Dalit studies on the background we have, or the studies we have so far.
Right. I'll just read out what people have to say. If we come across a question, I'll ask you. Himlata Hugs says good evening to all. Sutadripa says, sir, yeah, we have taken her question and she is very thankful for that. Jaya Ghosh says wonderful explanation. Gitanjali Nanda says good evening, sir. And we have Ashok Shelke saying good evening again to you. Vrishali Nagralish, good evening. Pragati Oja says, a great session, sir. Thank you so much. Aditi Rudra again says, informative and very interesting session. Ipshita says, great. And then we have Mrs. Pramila Chabra saying, I'm also here and I'm listening to the conversation. And Assis Sarkar says, thank you so much, sir. So
Wonderful, humble. Thank you so much. Yeah.
that is all we had for from our audience. But
Yeah.
before we say goodbye to whoever is listening, so I have my last request. Since you are a poet and a writer, I request you to please recite a poetry which help us to understand the essence of the subject.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for viewing and watching passionately. And thank you for your attention. Yes, recently along with a colleague from Bengal, we translated one very important text, that is 50 poems of Shamol Kumar Pramanik, a Poundro Kshatriya writer, into English. And one of the poems is Untouchable. And the title of the volume is Untouchable and Other Poems by Shamol Kumar Pramanik, translated by Jaydeep Sarangi and Onurima Chandra. And this book is available on all online stores. I'll read out a very small poem, Untouchable. Untouchable. The man runs out to write a poem on fire, disregarding the inequality. He runs into the rain, Main Street, like God. I ask him, who is he? He replies, I am Shambho, the untouchable, the untouchable. And there was a very small poem, but very touching poem. I said, translation of a poem, Bangla poem into English, or Hindi poem into English, or English poem into Hindi or Bangla, or other languages, is very challenging. And I always think that no translation is definite, and there is room for another
Hmm.
translation. So this is my way of
That's why we have
translation.
lost in translation, where
Lost
there's
in
always.
translation, of course. This is my perspective of translation from Bangla poem Auspicious to Untouchable here.
Okay, thank you, sir. But we have some more questions popping up. Shall we take
Yeah,
them?
sure, sure.
Yeah.
One
Okay.
maybe, one maybe. I have a meeting
One.
at 8.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
just. Okay. So, this is here. Could you kindly tell about any major trend in Odia Dalit literature? That's
That is fascinating.
Dur-
That is fascinating. Yeah, I have seen a lot of growth, like Pitambat Tarai, who is a good friend of mine and writing brilliant. Basudev Sunani is a brilliant writer, and many others I have come across, but and they are writing engaging discourses, and it can change the lives of a Dalit and also the non-Dalit. So, of course, I have seen enormous growth of Dalit literature from Odisha, and they are really soul makers. And it's a learning experience, of course. And I just humbly suggest to the universities all across India, they should open up doors for translations of vernaculars of Dalit writings from Dalit writings into English and other studies also. Suppose in Marathi or in Odia, in Bangla, it should be included in different university texts and also in the school level text, so that people can understand that how they struggled, how they how could they come out of the struggle. So how do they celebrate their life now? So it will be kind of inspiration and championing the self, and it will ignite many, many, many Indians in near future. I am really thankful to this body of discourse, amazing body of discourse.
Thank you so much, sir. It was like a 40 minutes packed session for all of us, and you have given us so much perspective into this subject that would have come from a teacher only. Only your experience and your work, your research is available to us now through this video. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Uh,
so much. And of course, many are archived, very easily available. So I think I interviewed a lot of Dalit writers, and it was pure learning for me. And all are archived easily. And you can type my name, interview, and the writer's name. So suppose Sharan Kumar Limbale, my name, Sharan Kumar Limbale, interview, and that is available online. And I hope this body of literature will show new directions to all of us.
sure.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
for
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. For our audience convenience, I'll be sharing links to Dr. Sarangi's books in the comment section, so you can easily access those books and read about it all. And one more request to whoever is watching, please share so that it reaches out to as many people as possible, because that was the agenda. Thank you
And
so much again.
yeah, one more thing. If you are working for PhD in Dalit studies, you feel free to contact me. I will help out in whatever humble way I have, whatever resources I have. Feel free to write to me. Yeah. Thank you,
Thank you, sir.
Anushree, for
Thank you,
engaging
sir.
me, and you took a lot of trouble and time for working it
No,
out.
no.
You conducted it so well. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Thank you so much for getting back to me. I was like, it was a dream come true for me. Thank you.
Yeah, but at the
And
same time, I must thank our Pickles and also Maniben Nanavati
yes,
Women's College, Mumbai, and their honorable principal, who is a good friend of mine, for their support and for their relentless, tireless engagements with literature. And
absolutely. Thank you,
Thanks.
Dr. Trivedi, for extending your help to us, and Miss Annabelle, who has been coordinating with me
Absolutely.
relentlessly.
Absolutely.
It wouldn't have
Absolutely.
been possible without their support. And
Absolutely.
so thank you so much for all of you who have been present here watching us and has written so many nice comments in the comment box. And before I say final goodbye to all of you, please do send us your queries and send your queries across to Dr. Sarangi. He's very quick in responding to everyone. And if you want Art Pickles to organize any talk show on any other subject, please do write on Facebook or email us. We'll get back to you. Thank you so much and
Thank you so
good night.
much. Thank you. Thank you. Good night.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thank you.